What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and this time I'm going to explain why I feel Bray Wyatt should just leave the WWE. It's time for him to go. I'm going to detail Bray Wyatt's entire WWE run and explain why the time is right for him just to leave. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Summer of 2013, Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family debut. They debuted very strong. They were booked pretty much really well for their entire initial run. We get to WrestleMania 30 of 2014. Bray Wyatt goes into a feud with John Cena, and this was the first nail in Bray Wyatt's coffin. He was made to look like a complete and utter fool against John Cena. The Wyatt family members, Harper and Rowan, same thing. Every single match Wyatt had with John Cena was basically a 1-on-3 handicap match, and John Cena won every single one. Do not say that Bray got the steel cage match win against John Cena. Because if you watch that match, Cena basically had a one, and it was a goddamn kid singing a song that distracted him. The entire feud made Bray Wyatt look like a complete and utter chump. Fast forward later in the year, Bray Wyatt goes through a rehab phase, has a little feud with Dean Ambrose, and now he's being primed to take on The Undertaker at WrestleMania. What happens? Undertaker beats Bray Wyatt. The whole feud about Bray Wyatt being the new face of fear and the new Lord of Darkness means utterly nothing because, number one, he lost. And not only that, he lost to a big name. That's two WrestleManias in a row where Bray Wyatt lost to a big name that he should have beaten. However, in the case of The Undertaker, you had just broken the streak the year before. Now you had to do a thing where Taker had to get his win back, and Bray Wyatt became your sacrificial lamb. I do not care if Bray Wyatt supposedly injured his ankle during warm-ups before the match. The fact of the matter is, Bray Wyatt lost to a major star at a major show twice now. Then throughout 2015, he's going between feuds with Chris Jericho, which amounted to nothing. He does other stuff in 2015 that don't really do that amounts to nothing. 2016, he goes into a feud with Seth Rollins that leads to nothing. But mid 2016 starts this entire thing with Randy Orton. The initial feud he had with Randy Orton. At first, it was kind of interesting seeing Randy Orton pretty much be adopted into the Wyatt family to the point where Bray Wyatt and Orton were becoming allies. This, of course, leads to Randy Orton betraying the Wyatt family, which leads to Bray Wyatt becoming the WWE Champion and having a WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. Now, let me explain to you why this whole thing was completely and utterly stupid. Bray Wyatt's title win was just a plot device to further the story between him and Orton. There was never gonna. I truly feel there was never no plan for Bray Wyatt to beat Randy Orton. Bray Wyatt again was made to look like a complete chump to a major player. He was given the world title as a plot device. His title run, when you look at it, meant absolutely nothing because he had no reign. His reign was a plot device. That was it. And then once Bray lost the belt to Randy Orton, back to doing absolutely nothing, just floundering around doing absolute nothing, he goes into this feud with Matt Hardy, which takes 25 years to end, which eventually leads to them becoming a tag team and then becoming tag team champions, which was forgettable. Blink and you miss it. Then once Hardy and Wyatt lose the belts, Bray Wyatt disappears for the better part of a year. When he finally comes back in 2019, he has this new character now. He's got this Firefly Funhouse. It's something that's really started to, it's revitalizing his career. It's making Bray Wyatt a very interesting character again. You know, the whole thing of acting like an evil Mr. Rogers with this split personality called the Fiend was very interesting and very intriguing. And when you got to the big payoff of the Fiend's debut at SummerSlam 2019, it was awesome. It looked cool. It looked great. This was something that was going to be cool. Then immediately once the Fiend debuts, Bray Wyatt is announced as #1 contender for the Universal Championship for God knows why, which leads to a Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins, which was the most overly booked piece of junk of a match you've ever seen. It was a horrible match. Ends in no contest. Seth Rollins beats Bray Wyatt with tools and a bunch of other stuff. Number one, this match should have never been for the Universal Championship. Number two, this match should not have been a Hell in a Cell match. The build up to this was complete and utter crap. They had no legitimate heat going into this match for it to even warrant Hell in a Cell. It's the old thing of, oh, it's October, that means Hell in a Cell. Bray Wyatt, he's become the talk of the town. Let's just throw him in a world title picture without really building him up for it. How I would have booked this is non-title, Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins. Bray Wyatt gets the win, so that way you have a reason to give Bray Wyatt a title match when necessary. However, since this is WWE, they like to work in reverse. Let's just name Bray Wyatt the Universal, the number one contender, throw this match together, and then see what happens. What happens? The entire match was criticized for being an utter piece of garbage. So what happens? So then, 2 weeks later, you go to Saudi Arabia, which coincidentally takes place on Halloween, and you rewrite the wrongs you made at Hell in a Cell by making Bray Wyatt the Universal Champion. You already hit strike one with the Hell in a Cell match that made Bray Wyatt look like a complete fool again, but it was still early enough in the Fiend's run where you could pretend, where you saved it, though barely, by having him win in Saudi Arabia. If the plan was to have Bray Wyatt win the title at Saudi Arabia on Halloween, then like I said, the Hell in a Cell match with Rollins should have just been a non-title standard match where Bray gets the win, therefore you can build to a Hell in a Cell match in Saudi Arabia for the title. It would have made more sense that way, instead of doing it the way you did, which was completely and utterly stupid. So Bray has this Universal title reign, and it doesn't even have a chance to pick up any steam, because by the time you get to February, he gets bitched out by Goldberg and loses the belt. Strike two. Bray Wyatt loses to Goldberg, all because Goldberg didn't want to tarnish his image for the little kids. Goldberg. The little kids who admire you are now my age. No modern day little kid wrestling fan knows who the hell you are, and they don't value you as a superhero, bro. Stop it. You're just an egomaniac. If you had any love for the wrestling business, you would have been like, hey, listen, Bray Wyatt is trying to get this new character over. A win over me will give him some validation. But no, you're a mark for the money. Now listen, Goldberg being a mark for money, that's cool. That's fine. Make the money you can. But Jesus Christ, at least have some sense of like, hey, listen, I got this guaranteed money. Let me take the L. Ain't gonna hurt me financially. I got a guaranteed deal. Goldberg is one of those egomaniacs that wants the money and he wants everything else that comes and he wants all the glory for himself. I'm actually a fan of Goldberg, believe it or not. But I digress. Bray Wyatt does the job to Goldberg. He gets squashed and looks like a complete and utter fool. You go to WrestleMania with the Firefly Funhouse. You rectify the wrongs that you did with John Cena 6 years ago. 6 years too late. Cena's already out the door. He's making movies. Now he's pretty much like The Rock, making part-time sporadic appearances once every couple of years. How it seems. Anyway, the Firefly Funhouse. You do the match. It's weird. It's kooky. It's crazy. I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was actually pretty cool. It was kind of different and unique for WWE standards. And yeah, listen, Bray Wyatt, he finally was able to get the upper hand on John Cena. Okay, cool. What happens now? You put him in this never-ending program with Braun Strowman, where there's absolutely little to no story, because Braun Strowman was such a minute member of the Wyatt family. I think Braun Strowman was a member of the Wyatt family for 3 weeks. As quick as he was in the group, he was already out of it, being repackaged as his Monster Among Men gimmick. But they needed to do something, and what happens? You had Bray and Braun do a series of matches that sucked, and by the time Bray Wyatt got the belt at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns had just made his big return. So now what do? You just got done. You just gave Bray the belt. About a week or two later, he loses it. Once again, Bray Wyatt made to look like a complete and utter fool. And once again, in his third world title reign, it amounts to absolutely nothing. It does nothing for him. All three of Bray Wyatt's title reigns have done more to damage him than build him up. His first title reign was used as a plot device for a Randy Orton feud. His second title reign, he was bitched out by Goldberg. His third title reign, it was just there to give it to Roman the next day, basically. So you do all that crap, and now, surprise, surprise, Bray Wyatt's career comes full circle. Now he's feuding again with Randy Orton. This time you have Alexa Bliss, who's palling around with Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse. So what happens? You do this whole thing where Bray Wyatt gets burned alive. He's off TV for 3 weeks, for 3 months. Comes back, has a new thing. He has this new disturbing looking makeup where the Fiend looks like he's a burn victim, kind of like Darkman. Okay, it's interesting, I guess. So now we go to WrestleMania. This should be Bray Wyatt's big revenge, his big thing, right? Get revenge on the man who burned you alive. What happens? I'm gonna tell you what happened. Dramatic pause, of course. Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt goes 6 minutes, and it takes an RKO. It takes one RKO and a distraction from Alexa Bliss for Bray Wyatt to once again lose at a WrestleMania. I don't think Bray Wyatt has ever once won a WrestleMania match. He's like the reverse Undertaker. He has a losing streak that's going to immortalize him as the world's biggest loser when it comes to having WrestleMania matches. Reverse Undertaker. Him breaking his losing streak will be the day chickens grow wings. Will be the day chickens learn to fly up into the sky. And now, who the hell knows what you're doing with Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss? Honestly, truthfully, I don't care because I have no reason to invest my time as a viewer into Bray Wyatt. His character, the Fiend, is a complete and utter joke and an embarrassment now. The whole thing with Alexa Bliss, it started off interesting. Now it's quickly gone down to the road of self-parody and ridiculous absurdity. The feud of Randy Orton clearly did Bray Wyatt no favors. Bray Wyatt is stuck in this continuous purgatory within WWE, where every time this guy starts to gain some sort of momentum, they cut the legs out from underneath him. He reinvents himself as the Fiend, and they completely and utterly destroy it. And now it looks like they're going to give Alexa Bliss the gimmick. Why? I highly doubt that Windham Rotunda, the man behind the character, his entire endgame was, hey, listen, I got this whole Fiend character. In the year 2021, I want to make sure we transfer to Alexa Bliss as the endgame. Highly doubt that was his plan. I think Bray Wyatt had a much more thought-out plan for the Fiend gimmick than to just pass the mantle over to someone else. It's just the company just not wanting to give a damn about Bray Wyatt as a character and as a performer. And this is why I feel it's time for him to go. Ask for your release. Take a break from wrestling. And when you're done taking a break from wrestling, go reinvent yourself in a place like AEW or someplace else. Because WWE, they just do not respect you. They don't appreciate you. And I'm sorry to say, I don't even think they want you on the roster. You don't have no value to these people. A win over you is like a win over Barry Horowitz back in the 90s. It's a meaningless, hollow victory. You're a glorified jobber to the stars. Just go. Save your career and just leave. They do not respect your creativity. They don't respect the work you put into reinventing yourself over the course of the last year and a half. You invent this new gimmick. It got over, and they did everything they can to squash it and take it away from you. Bray Wyatt, Windham Rotunda, I implore you, leave the WWE. The toxic environment over there is killing your career, and it's clear as day it's killing your passion for this business, because every time you do something that gets any interest, they take the spark out of it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on why I feel Bray Wyatt should leave the WWE, because personally, for him, I think it's the best decision he could make, because what's more important, the money or actually having longevity in the wrestling business? To some of these young wrestlers, you can never tell what the hell they want. They say, oh, I have a passion for the business, but yet I have more money than you. Who knows what Bray Wyatt wants? Maybe Bray Wyatt wants to stay in WWE, collect his paycheck, and be a bum. Or maybe Bray Wyatt is just dying inside. He just wants to leave and go somewhere else because he can't take the bullshit. Who knows? I don't know. I am not inside Windham Rotunda's head. We're not close friends. I don't know him from a hole in the wall, and he's never heard of me either. But all jokes aside, just leave and reinvent yourself, and then maybe 3-4 years down the line, you can go back to the WWE, and maybe then they will give you some ounce of support. But aside from that, I think it's time for you to go. and reinvent yourself elsewhere, where they're going to treat you with respect and actually give you the creative input that you need in order to be a success. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.